recording this training session. So if you don't want your face to appear in the recording, please switch off your camera. Also, it's great to have so many people in this call. We are 100 of people, I think, by now. Wow, it's fantastic. But that means that please mute yourself so we ensure that any background sounds is going to distract us. So please mute yourself. And the other thing is, like, if you have any question, any suggestion, any reflection, please feel free to post them now on the chat. We will do our best to try to respond to all your questions during this training session. If we don't manage to respond your question, please email us to the email addresses that you can see now in the chat, and we will get back to you later as soon as we can after the training session in the next few days. The agenda, we have a really exciting agenda for this evening. We are going to start talking about why participation, democratic participation, community participation in the broad sense of the word community matter to us as Catholics. And we are very honored and very delighted to have two great speakers. We have Father Paul Roche, a Vicenzian priest, who he will be sharing his reflection and thoughts about the link between our faith and participation. And also we have Ian Byrne, the MP from Liverpool, who he's also will be sharing her reflection about this, and also hopefully a bit of his personal story. Ian is not only MP, he's also a Catholic MP. So we're really looking forward to hear from the speakers. And after the speakers, we will have a time for you to ask any questions to them. And then we're going to move to another session, which is about how your parish can use our Catholic voice to draw the attention to the issues that we care about, or better to say, some of the issues that we care about as people of faith. And we are going later to share some of the resources and materials that we put together and you can access, so your parish and yourself can reach out to the candidates in the most simple way. We have a lot of materials and a lot of follow-up. We are going to have quite a lot of information during this training session, so don't worry if you cannot take notes or you feel that it's too much, because there are going to be a lot of follow-up. So I think that I'm not forgetting anything. So let's start officially the training session with, as we always do, with an opening prayer. So if Father Paul is on the call, I will invite him to lead on the prayer. Father, I don't know if you're in the call.
Yeah. Hi, Andrea. I've just received a message from Father Paul saying that he was struggling to join us. So if everyone can bear with us for just a minute. He is here. He's just having some issues accessing the call.
Okay, let's wait for...
I think perhaps, Helen, if you can lead us on a prayer, if that's okay with you, while Father Paul joins us. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen from CAFOD. Let us pray. Dear Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here tonight in this incredible way, uniting us from all different places, all across the country, to come together with this common goal of trying to speak up and speak alongside our sisters and brothers living in poverty in the UK and around the world. We pray that our collective efforts through this year will be worth something beautiful and meaningful, and we ask that you use us in whatever way you can to make the world better and strive for beauty and joy for every person. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Helen. So the first things we would like to start this session, the first thing that we would like to share with you is why we decide to call this initiative a Year of Encounter. Basically, this initiative about getting ready for the general election, it's quite straightforward. It's about inviting your parish to reach out to your local candidates ahead of the election to find out more about what are their views about some of the things that we care about as people of faith and Catholics. The church tells us that as citizens, we have not only the right, but also the duty to promote the common good by casting our vote. But obviously, it's important to arrive to the polling station as well informed as possible. And for that, it's good to know what are the views of the candidates about these things, but also give the candidates an opportunity to know a little more about us as a faith group. You know, we know that many parishes are very involved in the life of the communities, and I am serving people in those communities in really powerful ways. And sometimes, I don't want to generalize, sometimes we can get the impression that politicians not always know enough about us as a faith group rooted in our community. So the idea is that engaging with our candidate as a parish, but we wanted to do that in a spirit of encounter. Pope Francis invited us to build a culture of encounter. And we can talk a lot what actually a culture of encounter might mean, but a very simple, straightforward way to think about is a culture of encounter. Encounter is about bringing people together across different perspectives and engaging them in true dialogue. Encounter means respect. Encounters involve curiosity. Encounters involve openness. Encounter involves humility, and encounter involves listening, really listening. This is the one that personally I find more difficult, listening to what others says. So there are going to be many other groups and organizations that are going to be talking to candidates to some of the things that we are also going to be talking to. But hopefully, one of the contributions that we can do as Catholics, as a faith group, is not only about what we are going to be talking about with those candidates, which is instrumental and is really important to talk about those things, because we need to sign that the electorate care about those issues, but also how we do it in the spirit of encounter. Also, as Christians, we also stand in a very long tradition of being actively involved in the big issues of our time. So a question for you and your parish is, what are the big issues of our time for us? And when we reflect and explore and think about the life of these some saints, all of us, many people has a favorite saints, we can see that these saints, many of them were deeply involved in the socio-political reality of their time. And in particular, in the case of these two organizations, SVP and CAFOD, obviously SVP is rooted in the tradition of St. Vincent de Paul. And at CAFOD, we are really inspired by Saint Oscar Romero, no? Even our office in London is called Oscar Romero. And I was thinking when I was preparing for this training session, I couldn't imagine two different saints. One died, I think, more or less 40 years ago, the other more than 400 years ago. France, Europe, El Salvador, Latin America couldn't be more different. But they have three things in common at least. One is the profound devotion to the Lord. The other, obviously, the holiness. And the third one is this action, this commitment, this idea to bring the kingdom of God closer, but challenge and push and try to change the socio-political reality of their time. So in that tradition, this is the tradition that we would like to vivify. And in this spirit of encounter is what we would like to invite you to reach out to this candidate. So I think that probably I speak more than my time is slot. So now I'm going to pass to Alex to share with all of us, Alex, why we are working together, why CAFOD and SVP are working together in this initiative.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And it's so amazing to see so many people, over 200 people in the room today. So thank you so much. So my name is Alessandra, and I manage all of our social justice work at the SVP. So as Andrea said, a year of encounter is an invitation to parishes and Catholics across the country to turn their concern into action. And we wanted to work together as the SVP and CAFOD because we really wanted to bring together Catholic organizations to amplify and strengthen our voice at such an important moment. And while we work on different issues, because the SVP focuses on tackling poverty here in the UK, and CAFOD works on global poverty and justice, what we do share is a common vision and mission, which is very simple. We want to create a better and more just society, and we want to tackle poverty wherever that may be. So we felt really strongly that as Catholic organizations, we wanted to use this moment as an opportunity to bring together people across the country and send a very clear message, which is we don't accept poverty. And as you will hear more in today's training session with this initiative, we're really encouraging parishes and people to take part as a group so that their voices can be amplified. And this also means that we're eager to see collaboration between what might be SVP members, CAFOD volunteers and supporters, but also Caritas group supporters and other organizations, because this really is an opportunity with over 5 million estimated Catholic in the country to strengthen our voice and build new connections in the process as well. And while we're working together on this initiative as SVP and CAFOD, we're also eager to work in close cooperation with other Catholic organizations. And I think I've spotted a couple of names in the room today of people from the Caritas network, which it's really great to see. So I wanted to take this opportunity before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the initiative is about to highlight other initiatives which are happening across the network, including the CSUN Do Justice campaign, which seeks to empower Catholics, and Andrea is showing on the screen the resources. And this initiative is empowering Catholics and across England and Wales to live their vocation to tackle injustice. And I wanted to highlight this before we get into the training, because we believe that these two initiatives really complement each other, because what we want to do is both equip people with the theological framework and the background and root all of this work in Catholic social teaching, but also through the year of encounter, we want to help people then put that learning into practice by providing all of you with the support, the resources, the tools that you'll need to make your voices heard. And also wanted to emphasize at an early stage what this initiative is not about. And what it's not about is about political affiliation. We are absolutely not here to tell people how to vote, on who to vote for. That is not our place or role to do. But what we are doing is encouraging people to engage and ask questions to their candidates, whichever political party that may be. And so having now set a little bit of the scene, and giving you all some background on what the purpose of this initiative here, we're going to hear from some brilliant speakers who I'm sure will inspire everyone in the room. And we will also, after this, have an opportunity for a short Q&A. So please start thinking about any questions you might have and do post them in the chat, because we are monitoring it. So I know that Father Paul has managed to join us. And Father Paul is a Vincentian priest who has been a passionate advocate of our social justice work. And he kindly agreed to talk to us today about why it's important for Catholics to take part in this initiative and why this work is very much part of our Catholic tradition. So Father Paul, I'd invite you to unmute yourself and talk to us for a few minutes. Thank you.
I'm very happy to do. And I apologize. It's the first time in all these years I was blocked, said not allowed in. I don't know why.
I'm so sorry, no problem.
I actually have a very short prayer to begin with. It's by Alan Paton. You may remember him. He was he's dead many years, 30 years maybe. He was a white South African living in the time of the apartheid state. And he wrote a very powerful novel, but based on real life. And it really brought a huge awareness to the level of dysfunction in the society and how it was really heading for total disintegration unless they could bridge the gulf between the social and racial divisions in the country. And it seemed to me that it's a very appropriate prayer at the time when we are speaking about a country that has a very deep division within it, social, but also very largely economic. So I'll just pray this prayer and then I'll say my little piece, which will only be a few minutes. O Lord, open my eyes that I may see the needs of others. Open my ears that I may hear their cries. Open my heart so that they need not be without succor. Let me not be afraid to defend the weak because of the anger of the strong, nor to be afraid to defend the poor because of the anger of the rich. Show me where love and hope and faith are needed, and use me to bring them to those places. And so, Lord, open my eyes and my ears, that I may this day be able to do some work of peace for you. Amen. It's a prayer entitled A Prayer for Courage to Do Justice. So from that, let me say my few words which I was asked to address for you. I imagine that many of you, it's tremendous to have such a great gathering this evening, but I feel many of you as believers, Catholic members, probably feel outraged and frustrated by many aspects of the society in which we live. Many forms of injustice, exclusion, and disinterest are all around us. Many of you dedicate a great deal of your time and your energy to caring and supporting people who are victims of this division and this inequality in society. That's good. That's the very nature of our work. But it's only a first step. We need to address ourselves to changing the society, to changing the structures of society. It seems to me the gross inequality is almost accepted as the new normal. In 2023, the 50 wealthiest families in this country had more wealth than half the whole population, 50 households. Many families, and you know very well, where both parents are working and they are still unable to provide adequately for the family, and they receive no assistance if they have more than 2 children. Today, just 5 households, 5, have more wealth than 12.6 million of our people. And this inequality colors every corner of life. Obviously, living conditions, educational opportunities, healthcare, work experience, social participation, being respected and not being respected. It troubles me that so often in our society, the words of Christian leaders, even those of the Pope, they're often dismissed as being irrelevant because they only apply to individual believers and they are not seen as having a social message or a social content. This is not so. Faith is personal, but it is not private. It is personal. I believe. I have accepted Jesus as the Lord. I try to model my life with the guidance of the Holy Spirit on the way of Jesus, the way I think, the way I behave, the way I react. But it's not something private. Being a disciple, a follower of Jesus, also carries a demand for action. This was in the Old Testament, and Jesus brought it newly, and it continues to our own time. The prophet Isaiah, for example, said he wasn't interested in just people fasting to please him. He said, the kind of fasting I choose is to loose the chains of injustice, to untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free, and to break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them? Do not turn away from your own flesh and blood. Pope Francis has been very, very strong in calling upon all Catholics to realize that being a Christian, your faith is personal, but it is not private. And he constantly calls upon us to take our part in the call of God to renew and transform society. In his encyclical, Frate Tutti, he devotes an entire chapter to the beautiful parable of Jesus, the prodigal son, the Good Samaritan, in Luke chapter 10. He told it, and the one who was asking it, he said, "Go and do likewise yourself." And that's how we, many members, have been doing. We have been, if you like, caring for those who are victims of this division, of this injustice, of this inequality in our society. Martin Luther King, speaking on this same parable, says, "We are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, but that will only be an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be transformed so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than giving a coin to a beggar. Compassion sees that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth." Those are the words of the late Martin Luther King. So this call gives a voice to the cry for justice and an end to poverty. It's a very interesting moment when the SVP and CAFOD joining together, challenging to do something which we cannot do alone, but to campaign with the politicians of tomorrow for a radical restructuring of our society, one of the richest in the world, where such a huge number of people are sidelined, doomed by unjust conditions of living, poverty, want, and exclusion from decision-making. There is apparently up to 8 million people in this country who are not registered to vote. Many of them are the poor people, the victims of this division. But they don't have a voice, they are not listened to. They can be gladly forgotten about by those who make decisions because they have no way of getting to those who make decisions. In the year of a general election, we have the opportunity to choose those who will represent us in the group that decides how our society should be. You will be involved in the decision-making. They will be involved in the decision-making for the coming years. Decisions which will affect the lives and well-being of all of us. And so the call is to choose carefully those who will represent you. Check them out and hold them to their word. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Father Paul. That was incredibly inspiring. I'm sure lots of people will agree. We couldn't have said it better ourselves, so thank you very much for sharing that reflection. So our second speaker, I'm very excited to say, is Ian Byrne. So we have him on the call today with us, and Ian is the MP for Liverpool West Derby. Ian Byrne is a Catholic. He's been an MP for several years and has been a really important voice in Parliament championing the need to tackle poverty. He sits on the APPG for tackling and ending food banks, and he also sits on the CAFOD APPG. And we've invited him today to kindly talk to us about why he was inspired to get into politics and why using our voice as Catholics is very important ahead of the next general election. So if I can invite Ian Byrne to talk to us for a few minutes.
Oh, thanks very much for that very kind introduction. And I don't know our fellow Father Paul, what a magnificent contribution we've just heard. And I'm sitting here in the sunny Liverpool thinking how the Lord can be so cruel after watching Everton beat Liverpool yesterday. But unfortunately, we are, and I'm here, and I'm delighted to be here. I'd like to first pay thanks to all the people on the call who do so much in the communities already. And I think I was wondering what to say tonight, to be honest. There's that much to really say, but I think I'll just frame a little bit where regards my journey's been an unusual one into politics. I come from a council estate in Liverpool. I've done many different jobs before I landed in politics. And politics, for me, came about because we had the burning desire to fight the injustice and the social and economic injustice in Liverpool at the time. And as somebody that was a Hillsborough at the age of 16, we knew what the state was capable of regarding injustices. And this isn't party political tonight, neither. I'm delighted to be chair of CAFOD, parliamentary group, which is cross-party. So everything Father Paul said, I'm probably going to echo, but I had an unusual journey into politics, but always with an eye on where best can I utilise my voice. And I've ended up, as I said, becoming the Member of Parliament for Liverpool West Derby, extremely proudly voted in 2019. And for me, it's the utilisation of that position which I think is crucial to this call and why I'm on here tonight. And Father Paul outlined the inequalities that we all see in our community. And as I said, so many of us and so many of you actually try and tackle that at the root cause. But the root cause of the inequality that we see is political decisions. And we talk about hunger. Hunger is a political decision. In this country, I think there's over 12 million people who are unable at the moment to put a meal on the table on a regular basis. In Liverpool, 1 in 3 are in food insecurity. It's a terrible, terrible time and a really unequal time. And I feel as though my voice in Parliament must be used to raise these issues and to ensure that we all strive for a much fairer and equitable society. In Liverpool, we run something called fan support and food banks, and I was touched on some of the things the Pope said on the screen before about working together and not accepting poverty. And fan support and food banks was something we started in 2015. It was football supporters coming together. So last night, I was standing with the Everton supporters at Goodison, which is Everton's football ground, collecting food for our food banks. We'll be back in Liverpool at Anfield next week in Liverpool. And we've done this across the country. So anybody on the call who knows the football, we've got Millwall and West Ham working together, Celtic and Rangers working together, Manchester United and Manchester City working together. And it's that collaboration which is extremely important, which is about defeating the inequalities, what we see today. And I think uniting society in these very divisive times through faith, football, issues where we can pull people together and make them realise that, you know, we should be fighting the bigger enemy, which is, you know, what's being outlined, which is inequality. You know, and I'm always struck by Pope Francis's support for the right to food. And in Parliament, I lead on the campaign, parliamentary campaign for the right to food. And it's 5 basic demands. I won't go through them now. We haven't really got time. But you can look them up if you go onto the website. And that's something which has been adopted by over 30 towns and cities. It's international. And basically, it is ensuring a right to food within the structures of the country and legislation. And we think that accountability is extremely important. For me, a key part of what CAFOD can be doing, and the other people on the call are backing what we're actually calling for now is the United Special Rapporteur to come to this country, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to food, and do a report about why we're in this position and what would the right to food look like. And we're trying to get them over in 2025. And if anybody wants to ask any questions on that at the end, I'm quite happy to answer them questions. And that's a really important pivotal moment we feel in tackling the right to food, tackling the hunger, what we see in our communities. Just to touch on the general election element of where we are now, it is so important that you engage, you question, you ask, and you participate. Because if not, decisions will be made in the place that I work, which will affect your lives, your family's lives, and you will not have a say in the matter. The general election is an opportunity for you to actually choose who you feel will best represent you, your communities, and do the best job within there. It's so important. And as I said, no political colour, make sure that you interrogate every single politician that stands before you, and please make sure that you participate. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody within your circle that they must get out and vote. It's hugely important. It's a hugely important election, because let's put it into the context of where we are now. 12 million people hungry, political decisions that have been taken over the last decade that have made us end up with more food banks than McDonald's. So what we need is a complete change, and we are in this country where injustice is fought and political decisions are made that do not make the position where we are now worse. And I think that's hugely important. So I think we've all got a role to play in that. And as I said, it's important that we interrogate, you get involved, and then you make sure that the next government, whatever colour it is, actually addresses the inequality that we see in our society. So I'll leave it at there because I know there's plenty more to come, but I'm happy to take any questions on what I've just mentioned tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great, and it's really great to have such great contribution from both of you. So we now have about 10 minutes or so for questions, and I can see there's lots of questions and comments coming in the chat. So I've got a couple of questions that have come in, perhaps to Ian, but Father Paul, please do come in as well. So one of the questions that someone has asked is, what advice would you give to Catholics who would like to enter politics? And another very good question is, why do you think the church is best placed to support vulnerable communities?
Two very good questions. From a Catholic perspective, I'd say this to anybody, regardless of the religious denomination. Get involved in your local communities, what you're doing. Get involved at the grassroots level. Make a change within your own communities, no matter how small, and then build on that. And then I think then that prepares you then, in my opinion, to go into either local politics, national politics. I think it's really important that we have lives outside of politics and the Westminster bubble what I live in, and I think it's really, really important that we have people who are grounded, who understand what's happening in the communities, and then can work with relevant organisations to try and affect better change. So for me, get involved in your local community projects is key, fundamentally, to starting the journey into politics. Also, I think faith to use part of it as well. And I think living by the doctrine of what we believe in is also an important part of, you know, your journey into politics and shaping your decision making within politics. I think that's really important. Well, the second question, I lost the end of it. What was it?
Yes, so it was, let me find it again. Why do you think the church is best placed to support vulnerable communities?
I think it's because it's a trusted source, you know, and the church is seen to somewhere where people will turn to if they're in difficulty. I think it's great. Certainly in Liverpool, we've got lots of collaboration between churches, organisations, different, as I say, religious denominations, mosques, and we always try and draw that all together in certainly my constituency in the city as well, because lots of people will use them as the first port of call. And I think that's where we can actually try and tackle the hunger to begin with. But then obviously it's about educating people and about ensuring that they don't accept the world that we live in. I think that's really, really important. You know, in Liverpool, we run 6 food pantries. We fed 100,000 people last year through football supporter donations. 60% of the people who come to the food pantries are actually in work. So it's about ensuring that people don't feel as though they failed, but ensure that they know that the system that we're living under is failing them. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. I can see there's lots of questions coming in, and I'm aware that if we don't manage to get through all of them, we'll do our best to address them either in the chat or do email us. There's a very good question from John, both to Ian and Father Paul. And the question is, what can we do about voter apathy in hustings where there is not enough time to have a full discussion? So a question around how do we engage with people who have lost hope in the political process?
Just Father Paul, when I say that, because I'm happy to.
Yeah, it seems to me at one level, the church has got something very powerful to say. It's got a great moral authority, but it's losing contact with an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
And what will attract people, particularly young people, or when there is a project or an activity in a local area. And that to me is key, that the church is in a position where we can start activities at local level, as has been going on, not just providing help and support, but also bringing out the ideas and the possibilities of changing all sorts of things, like the social welfare legislation and so on. Let people begin to see that it's not just by chance that these things happen. It's built into how our society holds together. And so it doesn't have to be like that.
I think it also add really good points what you've just made, and I think we use the strapline hunger as a political choice, and it genuinely is. You know, money can be found. If you looked at defence spending yesterday, you know, the announcements on defence spending. I've been banging the door down on the Prime Minister's door for universal free school meals. Successive Prime Ministers knows to be told that we just couldn't afford it at the moment. So again, political choices are made, you know, in this country, and I think it's really important that we don't let the apathy of voters. We need to get out, engage in communities. Politicians have got a massive responsibility to go into communities, engage people that don't feel as though they've got a voice, make sure that they've got a voice, empower them to get up, speak, engage, question, because that's what a fully functioning, healthy democracy looks like. And if we get millions and millions and millions of voters who are just so apathetic that they feel as though the system's not working for them, but obviously there's something fundamentally flawed with the system. So I think it's incumbent on us all to ensure that we ask people to utilise the democracy within this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really spot on. So I think we have time for maybe one more question. I'm aware that there's so many really good ones, but I'll finish with a challenging one possibly. So we've got a question from Arthur, who is asking, what do you think is the most single important thing the government can do to address inequality?
Well, I'll take this and Father Paul can come in to finish, because I've really enjoyed his contributions. For me, I've touched on the right to food. We think that piece of legislation could be a real game changer in ensuring that all political decisions, you have politicians held accountable, everything's measured against the ability to be able to afford to put a meal on the table, universal free school meals, better planning so we've got healthier food within our communities. So we feel as though that could be a real game changer as the first starting step to where we need to go. But for me, allied to that is the rewiring of the economic system within this country, which just does not work. You know, the old adage which so many politicians use, work pays, well, at the moment, it genuinely doesn't for lots and lots of people. I know many people in my constituency have got 3-4 jobs and are struggling to stay afloat, working every single hour that's sent. So that's what we need to address, and that only comes about by enforcing political change and ensuring that your voices are heard. So again, I go back to that point, make sure that you utilise that precious thing called democracy in a vote, and make sure that whoever you bring in is allied to what we want regarding the absolutely abolishment of the inequality what we see within our communities.
One little thing on that, it seems to me people need to be very clear that these are rights, they're not gifts. It's a person's right to have proper housing, to have food, to have security, to have the educational possibilities. And people who are denied those, it's their right that is being denied them. And therefore, it's not just a matter, do we try and help? It's obligatory. It's a person's right that you are speaking of, and denying people's rights.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate both of your time, and I'm sure everyone will have enjoyed the discussion. Thank you again, and you're of course welcome to stay for the rest of the session, but I'm aware that you both have very busy schedules, so you're also welcome to leave early if you wish. But thank you again for joining us, and thank you everyone for asking questions. So I'm going to now pass over the word back to Andrea, who's going to tell us more about the issue that we would be talking about as part of the initiative.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you, Father Paul, Ian. Gosh, I mean, it's so inspiring, and Father Paul words, you know, where our faith is personal but not private. That is so powerful, so simple and so powerful. So now that we explore a bit why participation matters to us as Catholics, a little, you know, this is the type of conversation that you carry on in your parish with other parishioners. But we explore a little because we are very restricted in time. We would like to take you through the different issues that we are inviting your parish to talk to their candidates. And Ian and Father Paul talk about injustice and equality. And to some extent, all the issues that we are sharing with you are manifestations of this inequality and this injustice in all different forms. These are 8 issues, and are 8 issues that SVP and CAFOD have been campaigning and working for a very long time. Whether you're a member of SVP or CAFOD supporters, you will be familiar with some of these issues. And we are suggesting these 8 issues, but the idea is your parish choose between 1 up to 3, max, maybe 4, no more than 4, to talk to your candidate about these issues, because it's quite a lot of information otherwise. And that might look like, for example, it could be the case that, you know, the cost of living crisis has hugely affected your community, like many communities in this country, and you are running a food bank because people need to be supported, and you feel really passionate about discussing with your candidate about the cost of living crisis. But also your parish has been campaigning passionate about last year about the Fix the Food System campaign that CAFOD is running, supporting Salina, and a small farmer from Bangladesh who sent a letter to the World Bank. And you also decide that you also want to talk about the broken food system with your candidates, because the current global food system is so broken that even in this country, which is still, don't forget that this is one of the most rich countries in the world, and we have the reality that we just mentioned, and you choose just these 2 issues, the cost of living and the food system, for example. Or it could be the case that your parish is really passionate also about climate and migration and human rights, and you prefer to talk about the things. So we are offering like a menu of issues that are the issues that we campaign and work on, and it's up to your parish to choose what you feel closer to. We also wanted to acknowledge that there is many other issues that we Catholics care about, and other groups and organizations might be also talking to candidates about those issues. And it's fine, you know, like you can liaise with other groups and organizations and include them. Obviously, the issues that we are suggesting in just a few minutes, we are going to share then, are issues that sit under the remit of CAFOD and SVP. You know, this is what we do, and this is the issues, obviously, that we're inviting you to discuss, and the issues that our supporters and members have been working on for many years. This is why we are suggesting those issues. Also, another thing that I would like to say is you don't need to be an expert to talk about those issues. We don't need to be an expert in food systems to know that it's not okay that 2.4 billion people do not have regular access of food, even when we are producing enough food. We don't need to be an economist or an expert to know that. So we have prepared a lot of material and question and statistic and fact sheet to you to feel ready if you want to have the discussions. But it's important that this is, as we were talking, you know, Ian and Father Paul, this is about participation. This is about exercising our democracy. This is to be there. So that's basically a very short introduction. Now we're going to go very quickly with through these 8 issues. They might be quite a lot of information. Don't feel overwhelmed because everything is in this materials that we put together. So Alex, I am going to pass over you now to start sharing some of those issues.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And as Andrea was saying, we really don't need to be an expert in any of these. I think we can't really repeat that enough. There's no way that even MPs can be expert in even each one of these issues. So one of the things that we are inviting our parishes to talk with their candidates about is the cost of living crisis. Pope Francis said in a really powerful message that poverty must always be understood, engaged in the context of the actual opportunities available at each historical period. And as we know, the cost of living crisis is still an issue for many people and families, millions of people and families. And this is pushing an increasing number of people into poverty. We know that almost 2 million people used the food bank in 2022. And the latest stats from the government show that there are more than 14 million, which is almost an unbelievable amount of people who are in poverty. And that includes over 4 million children. So we know that this is still very much an issue. At the SVP, we've also seen over the last year a 49% increase in the requests for help over the last year. So that's really a huge jump in the need that people are experiencing. So what do we want to see? We are calling for an essentials guarantee, which means that we are calling for the basic level of universal credit to be increased to at least to cover the essentials, such as food, bills, and baby products. And we also want to know from candidates, if they are elected, whether they will commit to improve our social security system so that people can thrive in their communities. The other issue that we want to address is the growing rate of regional inequalities, which has been mentioned already a few times today, because we know that this is leaving many communities behind and with very little support. We know that regional divides is leaving millions of people below the poverty line, and these people simply do not have the resources and support needed to simply get through life. So we think that government needs to commit to tackling regional inequalities urgently and should improve the social and economic outcomes of so-called left behind areas. So what do we want to see? What we're calling for, and we invite you to ask your candidates, is whether the next government would work more closely with local and regional stakeholders, with charities like the SVP and others, because we are experts in the communities that we work in, and we can help identify solutions to local problems. And we also think that it's vital that the role of charities is recognized and celebrated, and that charities are given more support to continue the role that they provide. The other important issue that we will discuss with candidates is the need for a more compassionate and fair asylum system. And there's a very powerful quote from Pope Francis, which I'm just going to read out for everyone. And it says that suffering with compassion, Christian compassion, is expressed first of all in the commitment to obtain knowledge of the events that force people to leave their homeland, and when necessary, to give voice to those who cannot manage to make their cry of distress and oppression heard, which I always thought was a really, really powerful quote. And we've seen over the past year more people really tragically losing their lives trying to cross the channel to seek safety in the UK. And those who arrive in the UK face a long wait for a decision on their claim, and they're often housed in very unsafe accommodation and are very isolated from their communities. So what would we like to see? We would like to see, very simply, an asylum system which is based on principles of compassion, humanity, and dignity. And we think that it's vital that the right to seek asylum in the UK is reinstated. And we would like to see people in the asylum system given the opportunity to support themselves through work so that they can really embed themselves in the communities. I'm now going to pass over again to Andrea, who's going to talk to us about the other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. And other issue is last year, 764 parish, I forget, and 18 bishops and 70,000 Catholics has support the Fix the Food System campaign, which is a campaign calling to rethink our current global food system to ensure that it's work for people and planet and not only for big agribusiness. And we have a great support for the Catholic community to the Salina letter that I just mentioned. Salina is a small farmer from Bangladesh that wrote a letter to the World Bank asking to protect the fundamental right of small farmers to freely have access to their own variety of seeds. The cost of the food is increasing, and there is organizations like the World Bank that should be supporting small farmers that are responsible to produce a significant amount of the world food. So we are asking to rethink the current global food system and provide support to those who are responsible to generate a massive amount of the food that we consume, because it's not working anywhere. It's not working in the communities that CAFOD work with, and neither in this country. So this is one of the issues that if your parish has been passionate and committed, about this campaign, you can have the chance to continue talking about the issue of food system. The other thing that we would like to talk about with your candidate invite you is about climate. CAFOD supporters have been really passionate about climate. We know that our faith called to take care of creation. And at the moment, climate change, the climate crisis is one of the bigger crises that we are facing, which has many consequences on so many different levels. So we are asking, we would like to discuss with candidates and whatever is the next government to stop spending in fossil fuel in UK and abroad. The other thing that we invite your parish to discuss, if you are interested in this, is our business and human rights campaign. Could we move to the next one? Yes, fantastic. UK business, many UK businesses are very big and very powerful and are working in different parts of the world because the supply chain is spread in many countries, across many countries. And one of the challenges that we heard for the communities that CAFOD work with is in many cases, these big corporations go there and create abuses, environmental and human rights abuses. So we're asking with other organizations to pass a legislation that we hold business accountable when they abuse basically human rights or the environment. So this is important that, we push for that, and hopefully whoever is the next government listen to us. It's important that the candidates know that we care about these issues. Next one. Obviously, CAFOD is an agency of international development. We all have heard that, there have been huge cuts in the overseas aid budget with terrible consequences in many communities that we work with. And we would like to see the 0.7 budget restore. Next one. And the last one is debt cancellation. If there is CAFOD supporter here, many of you might have been passionate campaigning in the iconic Jubilee 2000 campaign, where that campaign led to the cancellation of over $100 billion on debts owned by 35 countries many years ago in the last Jubilee of the Church. Unfortunately, we're in a situation that we have another huge debt crisis. The pandemic, the high rates of interest of creditors is meaning that many low-income countries has to choose between education for the people or health, or paying the creditors these huge rates of interest. So this is something that we have been campaigning, but we are going to campaign quite strongly next year because it's the Jubilee of the Church. And this is important things that you can also talk to your candidates about. So basically, these are the issues, as I say earlier, that CAFOD and St. Vincent de Paul has been working and campaigning for a very long time. We invite you to choose some of them, the one that resonate more with your community and your parish, to ensure that the candidates know that we care about these issues, that, as I said, different manifestations of inequality, of injustice. So now, friends, we are going to have a 5-minute break to stretch the legs and have a cup of tea. When we get back, it's the nitty and gritty, is really interesting part of the session, because we are going to share with you, we talk about the issue that we would like to talk, and why we should be talking about these issues. Now it's important to see, well, how we can do it. So in the next, when we get back from the break, we will discuss the nitty and gritty. We are offering 3 simple things that your parish can do. So let's get back in 5 minutes. I don't know what time is it. Yes, more or less 33. Yes, if we can come in 5 minutes, that would be great. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Hopefully more. Thank you, Helen. So thank you very much for staying with us. Hopefully you are enjoying this training so far, and thank you for coming back to the rest of the webinar. So we've talked a little bit about the issues that we will be talking about with candidates, and these are the issues that we chose because we are experts in these issues and they come under our remit. So we really want to talk about the problems that we see day in, day out through our work on the ground. And that's very important because that gives a lot of weight to what we have to say. So what we're going to do next is talk about the 3 simple things that you can do to engage your local candidates. And first of all, we want to encourage everyone here to sign up if you haven't done so already to the initiative. So there are 2 links, and our colleague Helen is going to post them in the chat as well. There's a CAFOD link and there's an SVP link as well. And it's very important so that we can email you. I promise we won't email you every day with links to upcoming trainings and sessions and resources. So the first thing that we encourage everyone to do is to contact your candidates. This is very important because this can be a very effective and straightforward way of sharing our message and questions. And this is very important because candidates will be looking at this, will be looking at what are the issues that matter to their constituents. So if we can repeat the same messages and questions again and again and again, there is power in numbers. So what we've done to help people do this is we've created a simple tool that you can use to contact your candidates. And this tool would be live 2 weeks after the election is announced, when we have the full list of candidates. So that's why it's important to register. But it's important to start now, to start organizing, start thinking about which people in your parish can take part, start thinking about which issues out of the ones that we've discussed matter to you. And as I said, as candidates start to receive thousands of emails, we are hoping to send a very clear message about our priorities. So on this slide here, you can see, previous slide, yeah. We've created a very simple template or letter that you can use. So you can copy and paste this from the resource available online, and it will also be part of the email your candidate tool that I've just mentioned. So we've made it as easy as possible for people to take part, but also we encourage people to make the message more personal. So we encourage to use a template that adds information about your parish or group and the things that matter to you. And in addition to sending emails, some of you may also want to get together as a group and write a physical letter to your candidates. And also on the screen now, you can see a screenshot of a video that we filmed together with CAFOD and SVP members and supporters. So for those of you who feel more creative, it's great. We really encourage that. So what we encourage people to do is to film themselves as a group or parish with the phone in a very simple way, where you ask questions to your candidate. And this can be a very I wouldn't underestimate the power of this, because it can engage candidates in a more creative way. Andrea, can you tell us a little bit more about the other ways people can get involved?
Sure, thank you, Alex. So, Alex, we are inviting to do these 3 things. As Alex mentioned, send the message in the different ways. Action number 2, I shouldn't say that, but I feel like I really like this one in particular. The action number 2 is try to organize people in your parish to attend the hustings together. And before attending this hustings, decide what are the issues. And let's say that 15 people from my parish want to go. 10 feel quite confident to ask questions. So we organize ourselves. We are really passionate about climate, and we all want to talk about climate. So we have like 10 different questions about climate change. or climate change and the cost of living, let's say. And hopefully we are all together to discussing. And if we are 15 people, 10 of us are ready to ask the questions. We will talk later, but we already have a card with the questions. And raise your hands. Chances are that 5, 6 of us will be asked to ask your question. And we are asking about climate again and again and again, or asking questions about the cost of living again and again and again. And the idea is not to be a shy Catholic. So if you are your question and say, hi, I'm Andrea, I'm a Catholic, or hi, I'm Andrea, I have been living in this community for 15 years. I am for St. Bartholomew Parish to do a lot of work on these issues, and I wanted to know what you are going to do about this. So this is quite powerful thing and also quite fun because, you know, you can bring to that casting people from the parish of different ages. And, you know, in many parishes, there are already groups quite organized. So that could be really nice. So this is action number 2. And the action number 3, it's be ready if someone knocked your door. You know that during election time, many of us, they would be candidates or the political party volunteers knocking your door. And this is another opportunity. When they knock your door, you say, oh, wait a second, you go and look for the card. And again, ask the same question about climate, for example, or the cost of living. And, you know, tell a little who you are. You know, I'm very passionate about my faith. I am a Catholic. I work in this. I do a lot of volunteer work in my parish too. And again, you talk about climate, for example. So the idea with these 3 activities is that candidates are going to hear the same questions again and again and again in different spaces from the same group. So hopefully they will get the idea that we Catholics in that community, we are active and we are visible. As Alex says, it's really important that you register because we will have an idea how many constituencies we are organizing ourselves. And this is also very powerful after the election. And also to give a sense, you know, what are the view of the candidate. So we are asking to do your parish 3 things. We know that the last thing, knocking the door, depends, you know, if someone knock your door, but talk to other parishes and ensure that they are ready. So now I want it also to be like acknowledge that they might be the case that there is people in this Zoom call that might say, well, Andrea, that is really nice ideas, but no way that I will be able to organize something like that in my parish. Because people in my parish might not want to do something like that. We don't are good organizing ourselves. My priest might not want to do that. No way that we feel confident to do that. If you are one of them, and it's okay, maybe you are not, but I sometimes I heard things like that, or I sometimes I feel like that. We wanted to share with you the testimony of one of our great CAFOD volunteer, Petula. In 2021, CAFOD organized an initiative called Parliament in Your Parish, when we invite parish to talk to their MPs about climate, because the UK government was hosting the COP26 here in Glasgow. And that was in the worst possible moment ever, because the parish were closed, we were struggling with the pandemic, some of us were losing our beloved people, other jobs, so couldn't be worst time ever. And yet the Catholic community came together and we managed to have meetings in 110 constituency. Some parish had meeting with Theresa May, other with the current Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, and you name them, all the top politicians. And we wanted to share the testimony of Petula because she's going to tell it better than myself, but she never organized that type of meeting in her life, and she didn't. So Petula, if I can pass over you to inspire the rest of our participants, and you have inspired us, that would be great. Are you in the call?
I'm here. I'm right here.
Over you.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name's Petula Nurse. I live in Wolverhampton in the Archdiocese of Birmingham. And I'm going to give you my journey, an insight into what I did for Parliament in your parish. So as Andrea said, in 2021, CAFOD announced an initiative for parishes to discuss tackling issues with their MP for them to raise our concerns with the government ahead of the G7 summit and the COP26 climate change conference. And the issues were on climate change, unjust foreign debt, and how to rebuild after the pandemic. And some of the issues are the same now. So when I saw the invitation, I was interested in learning how to organise a meeting with an MP, and I wanted to raise my awareness on the social justice issues. Now, in Wolverhampton, we were a new parish of 3 churches, and we didn't know each other. We were still in lockdown, our churches were not quite open, and I was doing my big Lent walk. So my parish priest introduced me to a parishioner who had previously volunteered with CAFOD. We had a chat, and he suggested that I should join him and another parishioner to do the CAFOD training. So at the training, the people seemed enthusiastic, well-versed in lobbying their MP. They knew exactly what they were talking about. And I listened, and I felt I was out of my depth and didn't feel it was something that I could do. But it was great to participate as an observer and learn, and that was that. Now, back in my parish, the other parishioners actually had not attended the training, and they suggested that I fill them in as they wanted the parish to take part and would assist me if I would lead the campaign. Now, I must emphasise that I hadn't done anything like that before, and I didn't know where to start, what to do. I had my doubts about me because I didn't know the other parishioners. I was nervous, and I knew it would be challenging, especially if people were not serious about this. And certainly I didn't want to do it blind and on my own. However, because I'd done the training, I actually felt committed. And there was something in the back of my mind saying, put your faith into action. And that kept coming to me. So to challenge myself, I decided, yes, I would lead the Parliament in Your Parish campaign with parishioners from the other churches. And so the Blessed Carlo Acutis Parish CAFOD group was formed with 9 people. So in April 2021, we started planning, allocating tasks and responsibilities, researching, communicating via Zoom meetings. Now, fortunately, CAFOD had all the advice we needed for the campaign, and we took one step at a time. Now, our virtual meeting with Stuart Anderson, who was our local MP, Conservative MP in Wolverhampton South West, our meeting took place on a Friday 11th of June. It was at 1:30. We had half an hour with him. Originally, we had an hour booked, but he changed it at the last minute. Now, we welcomed our MP and 26 attendees, and the Zoom meeting was opened with a prayer. The MP introduced himself. He gave an insight into his life and work in the parish. And then we proceeded to ask the MP the questions that were suggested by CAFOD. And these we gave to him beforehand, so it wouldn't be a surprise on the day, and he could provide answers. And we also asked additional related questions from the attendees that were in the Zoom chat facility. Now, the MP, he addressed our concerns, but he did not focus on the international issues raised and the government's commitment to tackle global poverty and injustice. He responded, his response considered the possible impact it would have if we raised these issues on the local constituents and whether this would be of any benefit or create expenses for Wolverhampton. He said he would raise our concerns with Parliament and send us copies of his correspondence with ministers. And he also suggested that we arrange a follow-up question and answer session with him to continue with the dialogue. After the meeting, we sent him an email thanking him for joining us. We also enclosed an article for him to include in his constituency letter. And we actually updated the CAFOD campaign team on the outcome of our meeting with screenshots and pictures of parishioners signing the petition cards. And then CAFOD prepared a publicity press release for BBC Midlands Today and our local press. Now, if you, like me, have no experience of presenting issues to local candidates, I would say don't worry, persevere. CAFOD is there to help. Work as a team using CAFOD guidance notes and actually asked the candidates the CAFOD questions. Now, as a faith community, we felt it was worth building a relationship with our local MP to have a voice at the community level. And we showed that Catholics should play a vital role in ensuring that the politicians put the poorest communities at the heart of these meetings to create a better world. Our parish felt that the meeting with our MP united us, and it actually reflected the diversity in our constituency. And the session was enriched by the diverse faith community all having a common aim, because we had Catholics, we had people with different faiths and people with no faith in our meeting. And our meeting also brought the 3 Catholic churches together. Now, on reflection, I felt that campaigning does make a difference. You can't just leave it to someone else. You can be part of the voice of change by voicing the injustice, and maybe someone else will see you and think that they can do something too. Now, I'd never met my MP before organising this meeting with him, but I thought I'd give it a go, just taking one step at a time. And later I was told that I actually had organised one of CAFOD's biggest Parliament in your parish meetings with our MP before, despite never having lobbied him before. But I must admit, I did pray, may I have the courage and strength to bring about change in whatever way I can. So I hope we made a difference, and I hope you feel inspired to get involved with a small parish group to present the issues of poverty and injustice to your local candidate in the run-up to the elections.
That was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Petula. I can see so many people clapping, and I'm sure if we were all in a room physically together, you would hear lots of action claps. So thank you so much. I think I find it incredibly inspiring. When I first started getting into this kind of work, it can be intimidating, it can be scary, but it can be done. And it can be absolutely done. And with the supports and with the resources and with the time, anyone really can get involved. So I really, really appreciate you, Petula, talking about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to have a little bit of time for a few more questions after. But what we're going to do now is, as you've heard us speak for a while, is we're going to break up everyone into breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. And in the breakout rooms, we would like you to discuss 2 things. The first is, what are the challenges and the opportunities in your parishes or groups to encourage other parishioners to join the Year of Encounter initiative? And the second thing that we'd like you to discuss is which resources and tools you would find helpful. What do you need from us to help you take part in this initiative? So what we're going to do is break you all up into breakout rooms in a second. You're going to have about 10 minutes to hopefully meet some new friends as well. And then we're going to join back after that. And please do join us after, because we're going to go over all of the resources and material and support available to you. So I believe you should be getting a notification now to join a room. And we will see you all back here at 8 o'clock. Helen. Thank you everyone for coming back. Hopefully we'll have made some new friends in the process, and we'll have had some interesting discussions, even though there was a short amount of time. So as we're coming to the end of the session, before we do, we wanted to quickly cover all of the resources which are available to you. And now we're going to share some links in the chat as well, so you can find them easily. So the main resource that will be available to you would be the main booklet, the Year of Encounter booklet, which we've mentioned before. So this booklet contains all of the information Andrea's showing you on the screen, all of the information that we've covered today, And it also has a tear out sheet at the end, which you can easily keep with you for when you have those conversations with the candidates. So we have an online version, which is already available on our website, but we also have plenty of physical copies that you can order and we will post to you. So please do let us know, do email us, and we will post them to you. We also have flyers, which you can share. Sorry, just the previous screen. We have flyers, which you can share in your parish or group. And we also have a poster, which you can order from us. And again, we will post it to you. And this is gonna hopefully help you promote the date of a meeting to discuss the initiative. So you can easily write down the location and time and invite other people in your parish. So we had questions before about how do we get started. That could be a way. Invite people in your parish to join a meeting and start having those initial conversations. Next slide. So we also have produced some supporter briefings with more information on the issues that we're talking about today. So again, no one needs to be an expert in any of these issues. So we've produced supporter briefings for each of the 8 topics with some data and information and stats so you can feel more confident on having those conversations. And we have also created a prayer. Our colleagues at CAFOD created a prayer, which you're welcome to use for your meetings as well. And Andrea's going to tell us a little bit more about the other support available from regional staff.
Thank you, Alex. I just wanted to add, I think that you covered most of everything. I just wanted to add that we also, CAFOD and SVP has regional staff in all the dioceses. So I am conscious that we went through a lot of things. If you reach out to our regional staff in your diocese or you email us and we can put you in contact with our regional staff, there are going to be more meetings at regional level or more informal chat or training sessions that will give you the confidence so you can start to organize this initiative. We were talking in some of the breakout rooms. Nobody's alone here. We are all part of a body. We are all part of a community. If you want to do this and you don't feel confident or comfortable, but you want to do it because you realize that participation is important, please get back to us and we will put you in touch with the right people and provide all sorts of support. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you everyone for coming and give the time and energy to be here. We are going to have the same training session on next Saturday, 4 May at 11 o'clock. If you know people in your parish that might find interesting to join and couldn't make it today, please invite them to come. And at the end of this training session, we are going to send you an email with all this information and a recording. So that's for now. And I think that we can give a big thank you to everyone and wrap up with a prayer. Alex, I'm right?
Yes, thank you very much, Andrea. So Father Paul is still with us. I wonder if you'd be able to close with the Year of Encounter prayer. You might not be able to.
Yes, I'm still here. Good. So we just take a moment, and there's a great sense of excitement, I think, and we enter into this prayer. We can all pray it in our own places. Mary, model of encounter, you heard God's call. May we be people who listen deeply in our polarized world. Mary, woman of courage, you sang joyfully of God's justice. May we be willing to challenge inequality and call for the fullness of life for all. Mary, seeker of sanctuary, you fled violence and persecution. Be with us as we seek peace and respect for human dignity. Mary, mother of community, you joined the disciples at Pentecost. Pray that the Spirit will empower us as we act together for the common good. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Paul, and thank you, everyone. God bless, and let's keep in touch.
Thank
you, everyone. Thank you.
Well done.
Father.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.